He had buried many men here over the years, outlaws, drifters, boys who chose the wrong night to be brave. But this grave, this one had always felt heavier than the rest. Then the voice came, "Don't turn around, Sheriff. I'd hate to ruin what little peace you've got left." Caleb's breath slowed, his spine stiffening. Years, outlaws, drifters, boys who chose the wrong night to be brave. But this grave, this one had always felt heavier than the rest. Then the voice came, "Don't turn around, Sheriff. I'd hate to ruin what little peace you've got left." Caleb's breath slowed, his spine stiffening. He didn't need to see the man to recognize the sound of him. It carried the dust of long roads and the ache of unfinished business. A voice Caleb had heard in his sleep for more than 20 years. "You're standing on sacred ground," Caleb said calmly. "Best lower the gun," a quiet laugh answered him. "Funny, you didn't say that the night you buried me." The wind shifted, carrying the smell of dry earth and old iron. Caleb's eyes fell to the name carved into the cross-faded now, nearly erased by time. Elias Crow. Caleb closed his eyes. "No," he whispered, "I watched you die." "You watched a rope tighten," the voice replied. "That's not the same thing." Slowly, Caleb turned. The man stood a few paces back, revolver steady, his face worn thin by years that shouldn't have belonged to him. His coat hung loose on a frame hardened by survival, and gray threaded through his beard like frost. But his eyes, those sharp, restless eyes, were unmistakable. Elias Crow was standing where the dead should stay. Red Hollow had never been kind to men like Elias. He'd arrived years ago with nothing but a horse and a past he never spoke of. Trouble seemed to follow him, and when trouble came, the town always needed a name to give it. Elias's fit easily. Caleb had been younger then, new to the badge. Still believed the law could make men clean. They had ridden together once, just once, when rustlers tore through the valley. Elias had pulled Caleb from beneath a fallen horse, bullets snapping the air above them. Later, by firelight, Elias had said something Caleb never forgot. "The law's a clean thing, Sheriff." "Men aren't. They'll mix them up." Caleb had mixed them anyway. "I didn't come back for revenge," Elias said now, lowering the gun but not the weight of his stare. "If I wanted you dead, this hill would have gotten another grave." "Then why return?" Caleb asked. Elias looked past him, toward the town. "Because you never finished the job." A church bell rang in the distance, slow and hollow. Elias flinched, just barely. "She loved that sound," he said quietly. "Said it meant God was still listening." Caleb swallowed. "Anna." Elias's jaw tightened. "She wrote to me while I was waiting to hang. Told me she was carrying my child." Caleb's chest constricted. "I didn't know." "That's what men say when knowing would have changed something," Elias replied. "She died," Caleb said, his voice breaking despite himself. "Fever. That winter." The words settled between them like falling dirt. Elias closed his eyes, a deep pain passing through his face before hardening into resolve. "You buried me," he said. "And she followed." Silence stretched long and heavy. The wind moved through the grass like a whispering crowd. Caleb reached into his coat, his fingers brushing the empty place where his first badge once rested. Elias noticed. Without a word, Elias reached into his own coat and pulled out a small cloth bundle. He unfolded it carefully, revealing a dull, scratched tin badge. "You dropped this the night they took me," Elias said. "Your hands were shaking." Caleb stared at it. "I searched for it." "I know," Elias replied. "I was still breathing then." He placed the badge in Caleb's palm. "That was you before fear taught you how to bury men and call it justice." The sun slipped behind the hills, leaving the world washed in twilight. "What do you want from me?" Caleb asked. Elias turned toward the dark trail leading east, where a horse waited, barely visible. "Come with me." "Where?" "To the truth." "And to what you owe." Caleb looked back at the grave, at the town below, at the life he built on quiet compromises. "And if I stay?" he asked. Elias met his gaze, his eyes heavy but steady. "Then you'll stay buried too." The horse snorted softly in the darkness. Caleb took one final breath of Red Hollow's dust and stepped forward. "Lead the way." Elias nodded once and started down the trail. Behind them, the grave stood silent while the man buried beneath it rode back into the night, carrying a truth that would soon demand its price. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the Old West. Let us know in the comments what you think Sheriff Caleb Hartman will discover. Thanks for listening. The horse moved at a slow, steady pace, hooves pressing softly into the dirt as the trail wound away from Red Hollow. For a long time, no words passed between the two men. It felt as if the night itself was listening, and both of them carried secrets they weren't yet ready to speak aloud. I rode slightly behind Elias, watching his silhouette shift with the steady rhythm of the horse. Every so often, the moonlight would catch the edge of his face, revealing scars that time hadn't managed to soften. This was no ghost. This was a man who had survived being completely erased from existence. "How did you live?" I finally asked, my voice cutting through the quiet. Elias didn't even look back. "By learning how to disappear," he said. The trail narrowed then, cutting through low hills and thorny scrub. Somewhere far off, coyotes called out, their voices sounding thin and lonely in the vast darkness. Elias guided the horse without a moment's hesitation, moving as if the land itself remembered him, as if it welcomed him home. "They never meant to hang me," Elias said after another long pause. "Not really. The rope broke. Or maybe someone cut it. I don't know for sure. I just woke up in the dirt with blood in my mouth and the sudden, chilling sound of shovels stopping. My grip tightened on the reins. They buried the box anyway," Elias continued, his voice flat. "The town wanted the story finished. Dead men don't argue." "Why didn't you come back?" I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. Why wait all these years? Elias slowed the horse to a near stop. "Because if I'd come back then," he said slowly, "I'd have killed men who didn't deserve it, and because she was still alive." I lowered my eyes, a wave of shame pressing down on my ribs. "She begged me to leave," Elias said. "She told me the child would grow up safer without my name attached to him. She believed you'd protect her." I whispered, the words barely audible. "I know," Elias replied, and the simple affirmation surprised me. "That's what makes this harder." We rode on in silence until the land opened into a shallow valley. There, tucked against a line of trees, sat a small derelict cabin. Its roof was sagging, the door hanging crooked on a single hinge. Even in the pale moonlight, I could see old boot tracks, half buried by seasons of dust and wind. "This is where she stayed after I was taken," Elias said as he dismounted. I stepped down slowly, the weight of the place settling deep into my bones. I remembered coming here once, a long time ago. I brought medicine. I remembered Anna's smile, tired but so grateful. And I remembered leaving far too quickly. Inside, the cabin smelled of dust and old, decaying wood. A single chair lay overturned on the floor, a silent testament to a life interrupted. Elias crossed the room and knelt, prying up a loose floorboard near the hearth. From the dark space beneath, he pulled out a small wooden box. He opened it with a careful reverence. Inside, nestled on worn fabric, lay a folded letter, its paper yellowed and thin, and a tiny hand-knitted blanket. "She made this for the baby," Elias said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "Before the fever came." I couldn't find any words to say. "She wrote this for you," Elias added, handing me the letter. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. Anna's handwriting was just as I remembered it, gentle, steady. "Caleb," it began. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone. I don't blame you. I never did. But please, if my child lives, don't let this town decide who he is before he can even speak for himself. Promise me that much." My vision blurred. "There was no child," I said, my voice cracking. "The doctor said there was," Elias interrupted, his tone firm. "A boy. He lived." I looked up at him sharply, my mind reeling. "What?" Elias exhaled a long, slow breath, the sound filling the small, dusty cabin. "She gave birth on the road east. A woman found her, took the boy in and raised him as her own. I only learned the truth years later. I felt the world tilt beneath my feet." "Where is he?" I demanded. "Closer than you think," Elias said. Just then, footsteps sounded outside. We both froze. A sliver of lantern glow slid across the cabin wall, followed by a familiar voice. "Sheriff?" The voice called out. "You out here?" Deputy Thomas Reed stepped into the doorway, hat in his hand. His eyes widened as he took in the seeing me, Elias, the open floorboard. Then his gaze fell squarely on Elias, and his hand instinctively drifted toward his gun. "Easy, Tom," I said, my voice steady. "No one's drawing tonight." Thomas swallowed hard. "Sheriff, the town's talking. Word is, someone saw a man ride out with you. Folks are scared." Elias met Thomas's eyes, his expression unreadable. They should be, he said. Thomas looked back at me, confusion and fear wrestling in his face. Who is he? He asked. I hesitated. The truth felt heavier than any lie I'd ever had to carry. He's a man I owe, I finally said. Thomas's jaw tightened. Then you better come back. There's something you need to see. The town was awake when we returned. Lanterns burned late in windows and voices were hushed but urgent. As we reached the main street, I saw a small crowd gathered near the jailhouse. At the center of it all stood a young man, his hands bound, a trickle of blood at the corner of his lip. He couldn't have been more than 20. My breath caught in my throat. The boy's eyes dark, defiant, and full of hurt locked onto Elias. For a moment, time seemed to slow to a crawl. Elias took a single step forward, then stopped, his body rigid. That's him, Elias whispered, his voice barely audible over the murmurs of the crowd. That's my son. Someone in the crowd shouted, he shot Miller's boy. I felt the ground shift beneath me once more. The past hadn't just come back to Red Hollow. It had come back holding a gun of its own. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to see what happens next in this unfolding story of secrets and reckonings. The boy stood beneath the jailhouse lantern like a figure carved from shadow and fire. Blood darkened his lip, but his back was straight, his eyes unbowed. He looked at the crowd the way a cornered animal looks at a closing trap, not with fear, but with a quiet readiness for whatever pain came next. Elias took another step forward before I could stop him. That's enough, I said firmly, placing a hand against Elias's chest. Not yet. Elias's jaw trembled. He had faced rifles, ropes, and exile without flinching, but the sight of his own blood standing bound in the open street nearly broke him. What's his name? Elias asked. I turned to Deputy Reed. Tom. His name's Samuel, Tom said. Samuel Reed. The words struck me like a blow. Reed. My hand fell away slowly. Tom swallowed hard. My wife found him on the East Road during the winter storm. The woman with him, she didn't make it. We raised the boy as our own. Elias's breath hitched. Anna named him Samuel, he whispered. Said it meant heard by God. The crowd shifted uneasily. He shot Miller's boy, someone called, clean through the shoulder. Samuel lifted his chin. He tried to burn my mother's cabin, he said. Said a reed didn't belong on land a crow once claimed. A murmur rippled through the street. I stepped forward, the badge heavy against my chest. Is Miller's boy alive? A man nodded. He'll live. I turned to the crowd. Then this is no hanging matter. Crow blood always ends the same, someone shouted. Elias stiffened, but I raised my voice. Enough. The word cut through the night like a blade. I looked at Samuel, really looked at him. The stubborn set of his jaw, the fire held back by discipline. Anna's eyes, I thought. Untie him, I said. Tom hesitated. Sheriff, I said, untie him. The rope fell away. The crowd erupted in protest, but I stood firm. This town buried one man on rumor and fear, I said. I won't bury another on the same ground. Elias stepped beside me. The boy will answer for what he did, he said, voice steady, but not to a mob. Silence followed. Then an older woman stepped forward, lantern shaking in her hands. Let the law speak, she said quietly. One by one, the crowd began to break. Later, as dawn painted the sky pale gold, I stood outside the jail. Elias sat on the steps, Samuel beside him, uncertain but listening. I won't stay, Elias said. My presence only stirs old graves. Samuel looked at him. You're my father. Elias nodded. And that's the one thing I can outrun. I cleared my throat. The boy needs a chance. A clean one. Elias met my eyes. Then help me give it to him. We spoke quietly as the sun rose. Plans took shape, not perfect, but honest. Elias would leave town with Samuel at his side. I would see the record amended. A shooting in defense. No rope, no lie. When it was time, Elias stood and placed the old tin badge back into my hand. You carry it better now, he said. My voice broke. I'm sorry. Elias nodded once. I know. Samuel mounted the horse, then paused. He looked back at me. Thank you. Sheriff, I tipped my hat. As they rode east, Elias didn't look back. I watched until they disappeared into the light, then turned toward the town. The bell rang again, clear this time, almost kind. For the first time in years, I felt the ground beneath me steady. Some graves were meant to stay closed. Others existed only to teach the living how to rise.